Well, hello everybody and welcome to Jeff's Baking Blog. Today I'm going to make custard. So this is a video called how to make real custard or proper custard. I had a request for somebody to show them how to do this, and it's actually quite simple, and I have to say it's much nicer than the custard made with custard powder, though I do enjoy that, and I have that in my cupboard at all times. But the real custard is much nicer, and it's the same basis for making creme patissiere and things like that. So it's quite straightforward, and I'll go on to the ingredients. And for this I have 600 millilitres, 2.5 cups of milk. I'm using whole milk. You could use whipping cream, you could use double cream, single cream, you could use a combination of milk and cream, but 600 millilitres. I have 4 medium egg yolks, that would be large in the USA. I have 37 grams, 3 tablespoons of caster sugar, 6 grams, 2 teaspoons of corn flour, and 5 millilitres, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. Though you could use a vanilla pod if you had a vanilla pod. I just think it's an expensive thing to use vanilla pods in a custard like this, but if you want to, you can do that. So what we have to do is we have to heat this milk until it's scalding, so not quite boiling but almost. That is then going to get mixed into the other ingredients and then reheated until it thickens. So I'm going to put that onto the heat and heat it until it starts to almost come to the boil, just very, very hot basically. And while that's happening, you don't need to watch that heating up. I'm going to put my sugar and my corn flour into a bowl. I just give those a bit of a mix around, and then I'm going to add in my egg yolks, and I'm going to whisk those to get them combined into a paste basically. And since we have time, I'm just going to whisk them until it starts to turn a little bit pale. And that's good enough. So we just have to wait for our milk to heat up. And my milk is now scalding hot. So I'm going to take a little bit of it and I'm going to drizzle it into my egg mixture, whisking all the time. This will just temper the eggs so that they don't scramble as the hot liquid hits them. Add more and more in. I don't have to put it all in because I'm going to pour it back into the saucepan. And so with the eggs mixed through like that, I'm going to pour that back into the pan, and then I'm going to place it back onto the heat, and I'm going to heat it on a low heat, stirring it until it thickens to a nice consistency. So I put that on a low heat. I'm going to stir that, and I want it to thicken until it nicely coats the back of my spoon. And as I'm stirring that, I'm going to add in my vanilla extract. And as you can see from the ripples as I'm stirring it, it's beginning to thicken very slowly, but I'm heating this very gently. You can heat it slightly more quickly, but I don't want it to boil, I just want it to thicken. And as you can see, it coats the back of my spoon as it begins to thicken, and if I draw a finger through it, it makes a pathway. So that's telling me that it's just about as thick as I want it. Now, if you like a thicker custard, you can cook it for slightly longer. You can also use more corn flour. But as this cools down, it will get a little bit thicker. So I'll just check the temperature there. And that's 80 to 83 degrees Celsius, which is up in the 190s Fahrenheit. And I'm just going to cook that for another 30 seconds. And you can see there that's getting thicker, so that's thick enough for me. I'm going to turn my heat off and transfer that into a bowl. So there's my custard, and it's a nice pouring consistency. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to let that cool down, and in order to prevent a film from forming on the top, because milk, as you know, when it's hot creates a film on the top, I'm going to cover it with plastic wrap, and I'm going to put the plastic wrap over the surface, onto the surface of the custard. Like that. And I'm going to leave that to cool for a little while, and then once it's cooled I'll come back and I'll have a taste of it. So I've left my custard for about 30 minutes and it's still very, very hot, but it has thickened even more, just a little bit. So I've put some into a bowl with some pears basically, so that I can have a taste of it. So this is what the custard looks like at the moment, and I put some, as I said, into the pears, and as you can see it's still quite pourable, but it's slightly thicker, and it will get thicker still as it cools down. So I'll have a taste of this. I'll have a taste of the custard just by itself as well. That's very, very good. It has a nice slight vanilla flavour to it, lovely and smooth and creamy, and it's very, very good. Well, homemade custard is always very, very good. As I mentioned earlier, if you like it thicker than this, then you can, when you're mixing the corn flour and sugar into the eggs, use another teaspoon of corn flour, which will make it slightly thicker, or you can even use more. I wouldn't use too much, but you can certainly do that. So I left my custard in the fridge so that it cooled down completely, and I thought I would just come back and show you the consistency now that it is chilled, so that you can be aware of that as well. So this is how it looks once it's chilled completely, and it's still runny, and if you reheat it, it will obviously become more runny, but it's a nice thick consistency. So that's going to be it for this recipe. I hope you've enjoyed it, and if you have, please give me the thumbs up below and click to subscribe to my YouTube channel. In the top right hand corner of the screen there'll be an eye that you can click on, and that will take you to a link for the recipe, and I'll put a link below the video as well, and I'll be back with another recipe in the very near future. So until then, happy baking.